Yeah, sorry, I had put it on pause. So I'm also recording this function. So again, introducing Shashi Hegde. He is the director of Hycons Bioenergy Private Limited. Bangalore is a dedicated green energy entrepreneur, engineer, and researcher, actively engaged in the Satat initiatives, and he contributes to the ecosystem through research-backed CBG technology expertise, specializing in energy crops like Napier grass and agricultural residues such as paddy straw. As a mentor, he guides emerging entrepreneurs driving advancements in sustainable bioenergy solutions. So I hand over the mic to Shashi Hegdeji. Shashi Hegdeji, you are also co-host for this in case you want to use that as a control for your proceedings. So Shashi ji, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Sanjay ji, for introducing me, and welcome to everyone for the webinar uh, of this first edition from Indian Federation of Green Energy CBG Forum. I will be uh, taking and calling up various uh, prominent speakers who are gathered today. I will introduce our chairman, Sri YB Ramakrishna ji, and it is my great privilege. Since last 38 years, YB Ramakrishna ji has been associated with the biofuel industry, and he was a chairman of Karnataka Biofuel Development Board. And right now, he is continuing with more than 5 to 6 committees as an expert person to make the policies and improve the policies. He is also active not only in India, also associated with the European initiatives to make the good suggestions for the biofuel industry. And he was decorated with the Lifetime
Shashi, can I
Contribution
interrupt you?
Award.
I think your voice is a bit low. I hope others are able to listen. So can you please come closer to the mic?
Yes, sir. YB Ramakrishna ji has been decorated with the Lifetime Contribution Award for the biofuel. And he is not only what you call connected to CBG, he is with ethanol. He is an expert in MSW, biomass, and he has been working on the working committee of Niti Aayog. And he is also right now finding solutions to surplus agricultural waste. And he is very approachable person. So it is my privilege to ask and request YB Ramakrishna sir to take forward this and set the tone for this webinar.
Thank you, Shashi, and I welcome each one of you to the first of the series on CBG dialogue from IFGE. Just to give you a small background, we all know that the biofuel or the biogas program is not new to India. We set up our first plant way back 130 years ago, and in the recent past, in mid 82, 1982 onwards, thanks to MNRE, we built over 4.5 million small biogas units, basically looking at addressing some of the home cooking needs, industrial heating, and electricity. 2018 is the year when we looked at the biogas program in a very big way. And that is when we came up with the program Satat. We all know about the highlights of Satat. I'm not going into it. But when we launched the Satat program in 2018, we were looking at achieving three major objectives. First is how Satat program is going to help us our journey towards the energy self-reliance. And the second thing is, utilizing the various wasted resources in this country, which were a health and environmental hazard. And then, of course, as a byproduct of the biogas industry, the gas goes towards meeting our energy needs. But the fermented organic manure, which is a byproduct, it is going to help us achieve the sustainable agriculture. So these were the three major objectives, and with great fanfare, we started the program. And then, of course, there was some setback, basically because of COVID, things were slow. But then when we looked at the program in mid 2022, later part of 22, it was not really moving ahead as we intended it to, the kind of targets that we had. We were nowhere, near the target. So obviously, we started looking into what were the kind of hurdles that we had, and there were several, policy gaps that existed which needed to be addressed, and nobody was really pushing the government on this. That is how the IFGE CBG Producers Forum came into existence. We are just about not even 1.5 years old. We are just about 1 year and 4 months old. The forum was launched in December 2022. And in the last year or 16 months, I would say that, we have been able to achieve quite a bit of work in this space. Every single the gap that we were able to identify, whether it was in the feedstock supply chain or in the technology implementation, gas offtake, FOM related issues, whether it was financing the project, carbon intensity credits, all these aspects, we were able to flag it with the different departments in various ministries. And we were able to get a lot of those policy interventions, in the last 1 year or so. And the recent ones, we have seen that the Ministry of Petroleum has come up with the subsidy scheme for the pipeline infrastructure. They have also come up with support for buying the equipment that is really required for aggregating the biomass, etc., etc. I mean, we have done all this in the last few years. But however, there is no one single place where a lot of information is available for somebody who may want to get into this sector. They may have to go to 100 different places to really find out what's happening, and if they wanted input with regard to making investment into this sector. So we thought that IFG should take on that role of addressing that need in the market today, and we came up with this idea of having the CBG dialogue. In fact, all the speakers that we have today are not theoretical in their approach. These are the people who have actually invested their time, money into these projects, and burnt their fingers, but in the process have contributed significantly towards making this whole program, the biogas program, CBG program, into a successful program. I believe that with the right kind of investment coming into this sector could be as big or probably bigger than the ethanol sector that we see today. And that's the kind of growth that is possible. And I hope that the presentations from each of the speaker today is going to help us, achieve those kind of possibilities that we are talking about. And for those of you who are really looking at making investment into this sector, or some of you have already taken the plunge, but stuck somewhere, it's going to help you get unstuck or help you get started. I would stop at this, and Shashi, I think the floor is back to you.
Thank you, Ramakrishna ji. Basically, IHG's strength has been that, including me, they could mentor, and most of the panelists or the senior members are part of improving or suggesting the policy. That is the strength of IFG. Now I am bringing out the topic-wise list. So first we need to find out what kind of plant has to be selected and what kind of location has to be selected and what should be the feedstock. For such a topic, we have Kevin Houston, who is the apt candidate to talk about it. He's having a very motivating and impressive personality. He spent 35 years in a very large global organizations in Europe, and he came to India and set up a company, Carbon Lights, in 2012, along with his co-founder Somnarayan. Today, Carbon Light is selling their own branded CBG, and they are also selling all of their fertilizer under the brand name, again, Carbon Light, and they are selling it across Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and Telangana. So, Kevin will be the right persons to guide us through the plant location and feedstock. Kevin ji. Yeah, host can unmute him.
Yeah, I can share the screen when you want me to do that, Kevin. You can unmute yourself and
if you share the screen, I'll
yeah, I'll do that.
can we put it on full screen? Okay. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to spend the next few minutes talking about two specific areas. Clearly the land and the plant location and the feedstock. So if we could have the next slide, please.
Sure.
So we clearly, because we set up our first biogas plant back in, or CBG plant back in 2015, well before SATAP was even talked about. So we kind of consider ourselves pioneers in this space, so we've been at it longer, and subsequently to that, we clearly, with the momentum behind CBG, we get lots of queries now from folk asking for advice and help on setting up a CBG plant. So we've developed a kind of framework that thinks about the challenges in CBG product development, and I've laid them out there, and hopefully this webinar.
Yeah,
Kevin, please unmute yourself.
Sorry, can everyone hear? Is that okay? Sorry,
Yeah.
I thought I had. So what I'm going to be talking about is the first two on this list of challenges. Our view in considering a CBG project, the first two things to be sorted are the land and the location of that land, the feedstock, and then I'd also argue that some level of equity financing needs to be thought about. If those three things are in place, one can begin to talk about a project. Too many people in our experience want to dive in at point D and start worrying about the technology, or the infrastructure. That, of course, is critical, but the time to do that was one is really clear about the first three things that are ahead of it, like where are you going to build the plant, what type of feedstock are you going to be using, and then really what will make the whole thing fly is who are you going to sell and market both the gas and the fertilizer to. So could we have the next slide, please? So we've developed a point of view around some watch outs here. So one of the challenges that we see that with CBG plants is that many of the people who can design biogas plants rarely build them. People go to a consultant who might have some experience of doing that, and he'll help with a design or a DPR. And then you've got people will build plants, rarely operate them. That's beginning to change now, simply with the momentum. Many of the EPC players in the market that are building plants also can provide operational services. But in the last few years, that was quite rare. So you've got people can build plants, they don't know how to run them. And then also a critical component that we've seen is that people very rarely know how to sell and market the output successfully. And all those elements are critical in order to have a successful project. So we have a point of view that only by controlling the biogas plant design, build, commissioning, operations, sales of the output end to end, can you really mitigate all the risks and success be achieved. All right, let's get into the first issue of the day, which is the plant location and the land. We have the next slide, please. Could we have the next slide? Right, thank you. Now, we could probably use this topic for a whole webinar. So I'm just going to point out some of the things that one needs to consider. It is the place to start. Without having the land available, you don't really have a project. But the first important thing to consider in terms of the plant location is it near any potential hazards? Now, the reason I stress that, and I'm going to share with you a real nightmare story that actually happened to us quite early on as we got into this business. Back in 2016-17, we partnered with a major multinational to build our first, medium-sized CBG plant. It was built on originally some agricultural land, about 10 kilometers outside a small town in Karnataka called Malur, which is to the east of Bangalore. We had got the land from a farmer friend who had who three brothers owned the land. One of them was an engineer who had helped us design our unique cascades for our carbon lights gas that we were selling to restaurants and hotels. And he made the land available to us. And with the multinational partner, we went through all the proper procedures of getting the pollution control board to give us permission to set the project up. We went through all the checks and balances. The multinational invested close to 7 or 8 crore to build a plant that could process around 30 to 40 tons of the organic fraction of the municipal solid waste. What we hadn't realized at the time, because we were both new and the multinational was new to this as a business, that the land we had chosen abutted a brick factory. And we didn't think anything about that at the time. And it was beyond the brick factory, it was about 150 meters to 200 meters from one of the first houses of a small village called Santa Harley. What happened as we began operations was the brick factory owner took it into his head that having a biogas plant next to his brick factory would reduce the cost of the land, and therefore he was violently opposed to it. And him and his son, who worked for a software company in Bangalore, set about a campaign to ensure that the plant got shut down. The son would come at weekends and go around the village stirring up all sorts of horror stories about what was actually going on in the plant. This culminated to some of our staff who we recruited just from the local village being threatened not to go into the plant until one morning in early 2017, 200 people came and sat outside the plant and wouldn't allow any of our trucks in or out. Now, the upshot of all that was the multinational wasn't bothered to continue to argue with the villagers or anything. They just upped sticks and moved all their plant machinery away and lost any of the potential return on that investment. They reused some of the purification equipment in some of in other facilities. But it was a watch out. We never imagined being next to a brick factory was going to be a problem. But we also discovered what was also a problem we just didn't know about at the time was the wind direction in that plant blew through the plant, through the brick factory into the village. And had we built the plant about 150 meters further to the north and 150 meters to the east, we wouldn't have had a problem. But in the early days, as we were starting, we were generating a lot of biogas overnight in the digesters, and some of that was leaking. And the raw biogas still had a high percentage of H2S. And when the wind blew through the site. It was on a slight incline. The wind blew some of that H2S into the village. So that caused a big problem. So I think, the first bit of advice is whenever you choose a piece of land, you ought to be on the lookout for any potential hazards. And as I say, who would have imagined a brick factory, which is, environmentally probably far worse than a biogas plant, would cause a problem. And it might have been a one-off. One never knows. But it's important to look at where you're locating your plant to see that it's not too close to anybody that might have an issue with you being there, because if they do, it can ultimately result in you having to shut the facility, which is what happened to us. So that's a real, so we'd always, you know, whenever we get engaged in projects, we always carry out extensive site surveys to ensure that any risky or potential hazards can be either mitigated or discussed to make sure that you build your plant in the right place. The second big area to be thinking about is the source of your feedstock and the end users of the gas and the fertilizer. Logistics costs in India are some of the highest in the world. So that's going to affect the cost structure of the plant, depending on where the plant is located against those two sources. First of all, what type of feedstock are you going to be using, which we'll come on to, and therefore, how close are you to that source of feedstock? Because if there's a big distances involved, that's going to drive your logistics costs up. And then, of course, where is the plant located versus the end users of the gas and the fertilizer? You know, the gas, if you're not putting it into a pipe, will have to go into cascades. Those cascades are very big and heavy, and the shipment costs on those are quite considerable once you go over longer distances greater than 50 or 60 kilometers. And equally with a fertilizer, if you're making a solid fertilizer and putting in a 45 to 50 kg bag, putting those on a truck, the logistics costs of those get very significant once you move over distances of 50 or 60 kilometers. So that has to be a consideration in terms of where your plant is located. Ideally, you want it in an ideal world, you want it close to your source of feedstock, and you want it reasonably close to the end users of your gas or your fertilizer. Another consideration, which is what we hit in our first plant, was, is it zoned for industrial use? We took agricultural land in that first plant that we had the problems with, and we had to get it converted to industrial use, because you won't get permission for a biogas plant on agricultural land. Now that process, it took us nearly...
Quick interruption. We have to save some time for the question and answers. People are very curious. So I request you to keep it slightly short.
Sure. So that's the second issue is you have to, that's going to take took us at least 12 months. It process might have speeded up now, but it's a lengthy process to get it processed. And then the last item is the size of the land available. Is it large enough, it's sufficient enough for the type of project you want to do? For a 2-ton output plant, you're looking at a minimum size of around 2 acres. For a 5 TPD gas output plant, you're looking at 5 acres. And then pro rata, depending on the size of your output in terms of gas, you'll need that land available. Now let's just move on to feedstock then. Now, of course, there are a range of feedstocks. What I've listed here is the most common feedstocks that are being used in CBG plants today. One of the key issues with them is the availability of those feedstocks, because they're not all the same. As you've seen there, MSW is available most of the year. Pressed mud from the sugar industry is usually available only for about 185 days a year. So you've then got to think about storage and then storage facilities. Some people try to get arrangements with the sugar mill that they're buying it from, that they store it, which means you don't have to look at storage in your own plant for that. And chicken dung and cow dung are available all year round. Lots of people, and Shashi can talk more to this than I can, a lot of people now are looking at Napier grass. Theoretically, it has a potentially good yield of biogas. But you need to, of course, you need to grow it, and you need large numbers of acres to be able to grow that Napier grass. And then, of course, in the north of India, there's significant investment going on now behind paddy straw, which has a very attractive yield. The challenges, and there are many with any of these feedstocks, there are challenges. The paddy straw has a very narrow window, certainly in the northern states, to harvest that paddy straw, the waste stream, in between the farmers growing, harvesting the rice and then putting winter wheat in. So there's a very narrow window to be able to collect your paddy straw for the following season. The other thing to be consideration is MSW do need a high degree of separated organic waste. If you don't get that, that gives a lot of other issues, not least of which you then have to put more labor or more equipment to separate the waste in a plant. Usually the challenge with that is you end up looking like a landfill, and again, other people will complain about that. So before you use MSW, you should be ensuring you get a good degree of separation of that waste, so you get the organic fraction of it. That'll give you a much better yield than you will get if you're using mixed waste. Equally, with the watch outs with press mud and chicken dung and cow dung is you can get a yield decay over time. Fresh press mud and fresh cow dung will give you more methane yield than stuff that's been around for a while, because it will decay and yield that methane anyway. With napier grass, you do need pre-treatment, as with paddy straw, and both of them you need to establish the supply chain or put the supply chain in place. Good news, as YB Ramakrishna mentioned, is the government is giving support in order to put the equipment in place certainly for paddy straw. So that needs addressing. So each of the feedstocks has their own challenges. They do vary in the yield that they give, and some people may get more than these or slightly less. It really depends on whether you've got other techniques to be able to increase your methane yield. But that's broadly the picture that we have today about both the land and the feedstock. So I'm done, Shashi, if we then want to move on to the next item. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. We'll take some of the questions which may be of interest to you on the feedstock in the end. Now, what I will do, since the feedstock matter has come, when most of us were very clueless about establishing a biomass supply chain, Verbio India has come up with a complete supply chain, and they invested a lot in the Punjab region. So we are very lucky to have Managing Director of Verbio India, Ashish Kumar ji, and he happens to be Vice Chairman of IFGE. I'm very keen to listen to him. Now I am handing over the mic to Ashish ji. Ashish ji, we can start with what is CBG. That is the basic, whether it is a hype or there is a real prospect.
Right, Shashi. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, all. To start with, whether CBG is a hype or not, definitely not. I think it's a product which is here to stay. It is just a start, and that is primarily the reason why so many of us are interested to find out more about it. But before we get into a lot more details, I think let's just try and understand what are the product specifications. I think that's important as a starting point. When we use the term CBG, compressed biogas, we need to refer to IS 16087. That is the standard which every CBG producer needs to comply to. This is a bare fundamental when we talk about other topics related to market linkages also. So first of all, the product needs to be compliant. Now, why this is important to start with is, today, as per the specifications, the methane purity level is 90%. Now, what we know that there has already been a submission made to BIS to revise this 90% to 95%. Now, whether that happens or when that happens, that is something which is we are not aware of, but it is clearly a move which has been initiated almost 3-4 months back, right? So that's important for everybody to understand, that in all likelihood, the specification of CBG will change from 90% to 95%. IS 16087, that's right. Regarding the residual part, what comes out of the balance 5%, my assumption is that it's going to be a proportionate distribution of the inert gases which are currently there, right? So can't really comment much more on that at this stage. So that is about the specification. Second, coming to I think, Shashi, you started with the feedstock topic, right? So without dwelling too many things, because I mean, that probably needs a session independently on its own, I will restrict my, focus on Verbio is into agri residue only. So we do not do any other forms of waste. We focus on the agri residue supply chain. So here, as rightly pointed out by Shashi, we have set up our own supply chain, which means the complete infrastructure, the assets, the machinery is owned and operated by us. Uh, Not because we wanted it this way, but just because that the market was it is still in a very nascent stage. So to get the right quality and the cost, we were not left with any option but to go with our own model, right? So I hope this changes and it becomes a little bit more distributed between not only the CBG producers, but also some support coming in from regional distributors, especially the ones which is in the catchment area. So we have to, as Kevin also pointed out, the bottleneck is, of course, the time window. We get roughly 30 days in a year. And in this 30 days, we have to collect the feedstock for the entire year. Now, that's quite a humongous task. It needs a lot of coordination. It needs a lot of capex in the machinery on the ground. And plus, of course, it needs a significant amount of storage infrastructure. So all these linkages definitely need to be taken care of. Um, uh, Quality and cost being the most important criteria. Just to throw some numbers over here, I mean, in that region, we come across paddy cost during the season, anything between, let's say, 1600 to 1800 rupees per ton delivered during the season. But here the quality levels are still of a lower grade, I would say. So if one has to go into a more premium product, then we are talking about roughly around close to about 2000 rupees per ton, right? X works. These need not be landed cost, but these are just indicative figures. Now, this is just at the time of collection, but when you have to store this material round the clock, the year, then the cost from farm to feed will be anything ranging around 3000 plus minus. It really depends on what kind of model you are working on. So I can't give you a very precise figure over here. So that's what I'd like to mention on the feedstock part.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
How about the market linkages for the fertilizer part which comes out, or probably all the byproducts?
Right. So for the fertilizer part, as we call it, the fermented organic manure, first again, the product has to comply to the FCO. And when we say the compliance, we are basically talking about the FCO has been recently amended, recently as in almost more than a year now, wherein moisture up to 70% is permitted. The CN ratio has to be up to 30. The pH has been adapted from 6.5 to 8.4. The particle size limitations are there that 90% should pass through a 4 mm sieve. So these specifications one has to comply to, right? So once we are compliant, then coming to the point of linkages. So there are, to our understanding, there are, let's say, two modalities, right? And if I talk purely from an agri residue plant, the only modality which seems to work is the bulk dispersal, right? I'm not talking about MSW. I'm not talking about any other feedstock source. I'm purely talking about agri residue based plants, which means you are in a rural remote area. So the FOM goes back more or less in the same farms from where you have collected the feedstock, right? So it's a pure bulk form of dispersal. The very fact that moisture up to 70% is permitted. So there is no possibility of packaging it, right? You might pack it at a day, and after 1 month, the weight has gone down by 10 kgs or gone up by 10 kgs. If there is, further addition, maybe there is no further addition of moisture, but definitely it is going down. So bulk form seems to be the only viable form at this stage for the large agri-residue based plants, whereas this could be different for MSW. And there probably linkages with fertilizer companies could also be explored, but we are not aware of any. We have tried, but no fertilizer company is willing to touch a product which is of such high moisture level, right? So ultimately, each CBG producer will have to set up its own linkages. That has been our experience. Shashi, does that answer you?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Ashish.
Maybe just one point here. Importantly, the Department of Fertilizer has come up with a market development assistance of 1,500 rupees per ton, which is given to CBG producers who have been approved by Ministry of Agriculture. And you need to be you need to be a registered you need to be registered on the Gobardhan portal, and you need to be POS machines are issued by the regional fertilizer companies. You need to be on the IFMS portal. So there is a checklist which needs to be complied to, and then you are eligible to get this market development assistance of 1,500 rupees per ton on bulk dispersal.
Yeah, thank you. I still remember many of us have contributed to all these policy decisions. Every 1.5 months, we are seeing the CBGs improving by policy side, and most of the people are doing voluntarily work to get this what you call industry going. Sanjay ji,
Shashi, I'll intervene here. Maybe a point which is of also high relevance to the audience here is, since we talked about market linkage, it's also important to understand the market linkage of the gas, not just the FOM.
Yeah.
So for gas, we currently have two models. One is the Satat model, and the second is the CBG CGD synchronization scheme, which was initiated by GAIL. Of course, it started with Satat in October 2018, and the sync scheme came up much later in 22, if I'm not mistaken. The fundamental difference between the two is, if I go purely by the price at which the gas is sold under Satat, it is by weight. It is sold by weight, whereas in the sync scheme, it is sold by energy, by MMBTU, right? So these are the two major differences. And what does it translate to for a CBG producer like us? To put it simply, you provide a 90% methane purity, or you provide a 96 or a 97% purity, the pricing remains the same in case of a Satat model, right? In case of a sync scheme, depending on the energy content which is being delivered, your pricing becomes progressive. So for a 92%, for a 94%, you are remunerated accordingly. There is a pricing model, and that is the fundamental difference. There is no now which model to adopt by which plant is very, very subjective, and that depends on the capacity of the plant. Now, let's say you have a 2-ton plant or a 5-ton plant. In that case, yes, you want to maximize your revenue, and the best form would be to go to a sync scheme, let's say, yeah. But if you are a large scale plant, large means anything 10 TPD onwards, you probably will need both, right? So, and then that is where you will have to balance out as to what share is coming from which model, and plus distance will play a significant role over here. Logistic cost becomes significant, and then if there is a possibility to inject the gas directly into the grid, also becomes a very critical point. So this is what I would like to just briefly touch upon as far as the market linkage for the gas is concerned.
Yeah, thank you, sir. This is a series of webinars, more and more clarification, and the subject level experts also will be calling. So some of the questions are coming specific to an area, but today, this being the first webinar, will continue to keep touching the top line of the topics. Sanjay sir,
Do you want me to run your PPT?
yes, we'll
Yeah,
go with the incentive schemes.
just a second.
These are slightly louder.
Sure, sir. Yeah, it is up. I can see.
Shashi, are you going to make a presentation or is it your turn now? Actually,
Yes,
there's a
yes,
problem. Yeah, sorry.
Yes, yes, I'll
Okay.
do that.
Please go ahead.
So I'll be talking about the financing. You can keep going ahead, sir.
Your voice is a bit low. Could
Basically,
you
in
please
the
keep your mic a bit close
financing
to your...
model, Sanjay sir, you can move on to next slide. So typically, the spending expenditure will have many ways, but for gathering the finance, either it will be debt or equity or hybrid of both or a project finance. CBG industry are the smallest of the plant under Satat. If we are trying to do, it will be 10 crore plus investment, and it is positioned as like a medium scale industry. And often it gets compared with ethanol industry, but that is much higher investment bracket. So CBG is not that kind of entry barrier in terms of money. And since this is not such a big fund, also not a small fund, there is initial days we cannot go for a public market kind of thing. So that is the challenge we have. Next, sir. So our best bet is banks and private equity. It is good to say that Indian Banking Association published a report last year, and biogas is one of their prominent lending area. The reason is because of the climate change. By 2050, banks are going to lose a lot of their own business, which they have currently invested. Because of the change, the trajectory or the style of the industries will change. So banks are knowing that CBG is very important within their system. Next, sir.
Sir, can you please speak loudly?
So
We are
we'll
not able
look
to
at
hear
the
anything.
typical bank loan process, how it is happening currently today. If the project cost is 100 rupees.
Shashi, your voice
owner
is
has to
low.
put 30
Could you please
rupees.
keep your mic closer?
And the land belongs to owner. And some cases, banks can finance the land also. Bank will typically put 70% of the money. Then, as an additional security, they will be asking about 50% of as a collateral. If you have a very good cash flow, then this collateral will get reduced. If they find more risk with our application and the profile, they will ask for the more collateral. So how much effort is simple, existing and diversifying businesses? Let us say it's a sugar factory.
Shashi,
Some good cash flow.
Shashi.
It is very easy to get the loan. If the entrepreneurs are tying up with somebody like having a good cash flow, they are new, but they are one more director is pretty having a good cash flow.
Shashi, your voice is too low. People are complaining. Your voice is too low. You have to get closer to your microphone and speak louder.
Okay.
So I was talking about the easiness of the loan.
Much better now.
Yes, I switched off my Bluetooth completely. So the newbies has to better to piggyback on an experienced and good cash flow kind of entrepreneurs so that their loan will be moderately easy. And first generation startup and growth oriented, ambitious entrepreneurs, they are going to struggle, but eventually it will happen. There should be a long waiting period and endurance which is required. This being a 15-20 crore kind of project, by birth, this project is going to be like a medium industry, even though it is under MSME. Then as far as CBG policy, there are specific lending policies are available with IREDA, SBI, Canara Bank, Bank of Baroda, Punjab National Bank also, Union Bank. So all this having a CBG specific policy. If the local manager knows about it, go ahead with this. Otherwise, you can just submit the application as a new industrial loan. You can go to next. So next, what we have is the banks are done, and then there are people who can put it on private equity and debt basis. Private equity and debt. Debt, this I'm calling the institutional debt model. Or it can be you will be giving some part as equity and the rest you will be giving as a debt. So here we need a genuine consultant. There are a lot of people who may promise, they may not deliver. So it is very important to have a consultant, and it needs a network. It does not happen by the email. It should be known people should be there. 2.5 to 3% of the commission will go away as expenses. Entrepreneurs should be ready for that. Equity dilution expectation will be 15 to 49%, anywhere in between. That is left to your negotiation. If it is a loan component is available, then 4 to 7% will be the right interest rate for all this investment. It can be foreign investment. 1% will go as a project insurance. If it is a 10 crore, about 1% of that will be your machineries will be insured. And you need to have a land, LOI, and solid technology tie-up, which is convincing to attract the investors. So without having anything in the hand, if we approach the investors, it may not go through. And land and equipments will be a typical security. I think I have one more slide. So coming to the incentives, MNRE gives incentive for any size of the plant. 4.8 ton plant will get 4 crore subsidy if it's a new. That is the just an indicative number they have shown on the notification. It is all like it can go up to 10 crore as a subsidy cap in the top level, and it can be at the same ratio, it will get reduced for the smaller plants. A state like UP is having a 75 lakh per ton as a capital subsidy incentive. No other state has a capital incentive as of now. Now Maharashtra, Odisha, Bihar are drafting their own policy. Bihar has released the ethanol cum CBG policy. The other incentive is lot of duty exemption and stamp duty exemptions are happening from the state government. Example, the Rajasthan, Haryana, Punjab, they give the whatever land you are buying, the stamp duty gets reversed. And apart from this, market development assistance for the fertilizer has been covered already. And now there is a subsidy announced for subsidy for biomass collection equipments. So these are all the typical subsidies, but it is very important to see that the project is viable without even all these incentives. The state of Gujarat, Karnataka, those places, there is no additional subsidy available. Go ahead, sir. So that's all from my side. Now what we'll do, finance is a very big topic. So I could touch upon the ways we can do it. The elaboration can always happen. All of the speakers are available for mentorship and even IFGE. Now what we'll do, we'll go to one more speaker. Praj Industries, when you hear, they are always, their name is synonymous with the biofuel. Out of two private companies who have invested in R&D before getting into the CBG, Praj one among them. So they built their own digester, did everything, learned it, then they started selling their technology. We are very happy to have Dr. Tushar Patil. He's a PhD in genetics from South Florida, USA, with us. He's Assistant Vice President Strategy with Praj Industries, and he's very active both on CBG as well as ethanol. And also he sits on various committees of Government of India. So I would now pass on the baton to Dr. Tusharji. Welcome.
Thank you, Shashi sir. Thanks, IFGE. It's very important to know that CBG sector is growing strongly, and there are a lot of inquiries are coming into the market. As a technology engineering company, definitely Praj from last 4-5 decades we are doing that one. But importantly, as this is a new sector emerging, so there is a lot of volatility, a lot of anxiousness in the customer's mind for investment and its viability. So I'll like to share, if Ganjoo sir, if you allow me to share the presentation, then I can do that one. Okay, you shared. Okay.
I'm doing that duty for you.
Oh, thank you, boss. So going to the next slide.
At your service.
Thank you, sir. It's pleasure. So next slide, please. I'll just introduce in 1 minute what is Praj is. That see, it's more than 4 decades, and now recently we selected as advanced bioeconomy globally #1 company for providing the technology and the engineering designs. And it's basically the best R&D backbone, which is giving us an opportunity to create a sustainable and economically viable technologies for all our customers, either it's a biomass base or sugar base or any waste except MSW right now, to treat the effluent for the best outcome of the energy. Next, sir. So last 22 years, we are in this technology by handling the effluent plant of ethanol industry with the spent wash to produce the biogas and all. But when the 2G ethanol came into the picture, we thought that now the solid is the part which can be converted into compressed biogas effectively by using the in-house R&D development and designing of the plant. So we initiated the first press mud from sugarcane industry as a byproduct, how it can be valorized. So press mud demonstration plant we set up and operated from 2018 onwards, and then the first commercial plant we set up with the Indian Potash Limited in Muzaffarnagar, and then Lifinity, and now much more are coming in the pipeline for the press mud to CBG. As very rightly said, that biomass is a one chapter where 2G ethanol we have produced, but similar technology with the biological treatment. Basically, we adopted for the CBG to get it to much more effective yields and its development. So coming to technology part, as very rightly said, there are 4 sectors you can take, and feedstock as a mapping is very important for the CBG production, because different feedstocks are having different composition, and based on composition, the design is different. Though the hardware is same, but your recipe is changing. So we have to be very meticulous about the raw material assessment. So what type of raw material we are having, how much quantity we are having, what will be the composition, then how it is going to be vary. So that way it has to be as what we can say survey in first step, and then go with the which treatment, which technology, how it is going to be performed. Because technology is not only for the generation of gas. Technology is also for its material handling. Technology is also for the pre-treatment. Technology is also for its purification. Then most importantly, technology, as Ashish has mentioned, that it is also important for the solid and liquid manure specs to meet. How to valorize that one? So all the different feedstocks, we have this pre-treatment section. Then we are having biomethanation section. Then gas purification and organic manure handling after solid liquid separation. So this entire integration we are providing, and based of my knowledge now, we come to know that last week HPCL project has also commissioned and started rice straw to CBG production successfully. Now press mud, if you see, typically the 200 metric ton press mud, if we go in the plug flow reactor or digester, the issue raised by the Kevin is that the preservation of the press mud. So that is very crucial for the round the year operation to meet the same yield of the gas from what you are getting from the day one. So there is a pre-treatment which preserve your total volatile solids in the press mud, and that you can use it up to say 300 days of operation. And if you see the gas production RNG is 6.5 to 8.5 metric ton, depend on the press mud quality, what you are having, because Karnataka press mud is different than Maharashtra and then UP. So there is a lot of variation in the press mud composition itself. So gas yields are ranging as per that one. And then you can have a very strong standard operating practice for making a fertilizer. To meet the requirement, you can valorize it further and produce a high grade value of the fertilizer. Next, sir. If you see the degradation, how it is happening, the gas which is say produce 100 in day one, it can reduce to 0 after say 6, 7, 8 months. So you have to preserve it very strongly, and this is the stabilization of the press mud is the key. If you are not preserving it with the treatment, then your gas yields are going to drop. So you have to treat it when it is produced. Fresh press mud, you have to treat it, kept it in preservation with the normal coverage, and then use it round the year operation, so that your gas yields will be what you are receiving at day one, you will receive at 12th month also. And that's what demonstrated and now commercially proven at different plants. Next. This is the typical composition, why I told you that yields are varying, because North India press mud convertible solids are different than the South India or Western part. So 12 to 13% is convertible solids. Here you are getting 15 to 17%. So that is reflecting in your biogas yield. If you are going with the combo of say cow dung plus press mud plus chicken litter, then your convertible volatile solids are different. Based on that, you have to map your biogas unit cost or size. If you are going with the biomass sector, then you have to see that what raw material you are having, either it's rice straw, either it's a Napier grass, either it's soya husk, wheat straw, corn cobs, bamboo, even some part cotton stock. So assess that one, make it a biomethanation potential test for any raw material, and then decide whether it's a good fertilizer is coming out or not, whether gas is generating uniformly with the treatment or not, and then try to, this is the stage one of the process to be conceptualized. Next, sir. This I'll just explain in short why this is important. Because you are considering the chemical reaction of the plant, how the methanation is happening and how rumen culture is playing the game. All raw material, whatever the TCVS is coming, that is converted into glucose, then you are bifurcating it, and then with the hydrogen pool, you are producing the methane. And that methane has to be in raw biogas, 50 to 55%, up to 60%. Then you make it purify, and then followed by that one, you purified it to 96%, 98%, and then fill it into the cascades or put it into the pipeline. Next, sir. So collaboration with the DVO and plug flow reactor, or also with the CSTR designs, There are different developments, concepts, so that there is no rotating equipment try to be built inside the digester. Now we are coming out with the hybrid model of these both operations, how these two can be combined and give the most effective yields or sustainable operations around the year plant. So it is very simple that in the old days we used to produce the biogas in the chambers, but these are the advanced design to make it more efficient production and consistency in the plant operation. Yes, we are H2 production. We are gearing up with the one question came from Abhijit. Yes, Abhijit, we are doing the green hydrogen initiatives has been started in Praj from the CBG, so that further these CBG plants can be modified to green hydrogens. So these are above ground, say 50% reactors, and those reactors can use very effectively once you consolidate it in into the tanks with the efficiency parameters to be set. Your less maintenance will be happen as compared to, say, some rotating equipment designs. Next, sir. These are standards ones. Methane, whatever production is happening, that is 96%. CO2 should be 4% below. H2 is below 20 ppm. Water should be 16 ppm. So high methane recovery designs need to be followed for any project. And it also depends on location, geographical area, how you are setting up the plant. So these factors, all investors has to consider when you are going to set up a plant into the different, based on the different feedstock. Next. Yeah, this is critical area where a lot of projects has having the challenges, and these are the specs where Ashish has also mentioned that now it has CN ratio has increased to now 30%, moisture increase up to say 70%. And then product conductivity and all. But the main challenge for any CBG project, you have to follow a standard operating practice to produce the organic manure. You have to treat this entire project or that backend part as an industry. Otherwise, the major challenge will be the dispose of this raw material, biomanure. So you have to create backend as well as you have to treat the FOM in your campus very effectively. Now there are typical packages which are available for making a granules or making a pellets, but valorize it wherever you like to be by increasing the bacteria to make the drying cycle quickly, to make much more effective mechanization into the biomanure handling part. Otherwise, this area will give you a great, what we can say, setback. And it is also important for your economic viability of the project if you are not able to sell manure in a good rate. And generally, we found that Indian Potash Limited manure is sold at say 6 rupees to 10 rupees a range per kg. So that way we can increase the capacity of the plant in financial way. And now this life cycle assessment is coming out for the project. So this is also going to play a crucial role because you are going to get a carbon credits out of the plant. Very, I think schemes are government are working very closely for the CBG. Now they are given certain mandates to blend it. So we can generate a good carbon credits out of this entire process. So Napier grass, as one question came, it is not at any plant commissioned by Praj, but we have tested the Napier grass at our demonstration facility. So next. Next, sir. Yeah, this is the structure. You have to understand how complex it is to degrade it through the microbes. So please try to see that whatever the raw material combination or sole crop you are going to use it very effectively. Don't go with the contrast type of raw materials. For example, I am using rice straw and tomorrow I want to use some woody material. If I am using the rice wheat straw, grass, it is one family. Bagasse is one family. But if you are changing, these are the microbes and they are having their own appetite to consume. So don't make indigestion thing into the digester. It's just like a cow. So you have to properly feed it and then get a maximum yield out of it. Next, sir. So feedstock, different feedstock families, as Nazim asked, different feedstocks are, say, agricultural crop residue is one raw material category. Then your industrial waste, that is press mud from the sugar industry or bagasse, spent wash is another category. Then third category, you can say forest residues or woody biomass is third, and fourth one is grasses. Then chicken litter, cow dung are coming in between. Now microbial pretreatment, if you see the photograph, it is before treatment, you can see that how the rice straw is floating, and then after treatment, it has to be form a clear slurry, as Ashish has mentioned in his discussion also, that this section has to be very crucially adopted. Kevin has also mentioned that how hydrolyzed straw after pre-treatment look like. Then your bacteria will act more on those sugars. Until you are not able to free out the sugar, then you are not able to generate a good biogas. And it will impact directly to your fermented organic manure quality when you are doing the solid liquid separation. So do it very crucially and optimize the things as per your raw material. Next, sir. So this is typical flow of the biomass handling. You have to chop it to the as per as possible low particle size. Then go with the PM sol culture, which is microbial culture for the pre-treatment to loosen up the lignin part of that one. Going to the digester, then produce the gas upgradation. Then your solid liquid separation should be in the same way, what biomass, and then of course the processing of diverse feedstock. What our technology, or we are providing the technology to. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Tusharji. It was a bit in deep in technical terms. What I understood is the more the sugar, more the volatile solid, more the gas will come. So
Yes, sir.
that the very basic understanding of for the beginners.
Yeah.
So we'll move on with this, and what I will be doing, I will be sharing all of your LinkedIn profile with the participants so that they can connect one-to-one, and any project specific, raw material specific question can be interacted. And if they're ready for the project, they can even go for a quotation with you. So I'll be sharing all the profiles. So now we have a very interesting person who is talking to us. Subodh Kumar ji, he was the executive director in Indian Oil when Satat scheme was thought, formulated, and implemented. So we have a former executive director from Indian Oil, and when I traveled with him some few months back, within 6-7 hours of the journey, I understood that it is better to talk to him than read hundreds of books. So that is the shortest way of introducing him. Right now, he is the executive director of a consulting firm, Pro. So he's working with a lot of entrepreneurs, and even for Hycons, he has been very helpful and guiding. So I will hand it over to Subodh Kumar ji. My first question to you, we talk about DPR, and you being in a very large organization, you make very thick DPR. So how important is it, and is it only for the bank purpose, or it has more meaning to it? We can start with that.
Thank you, Shashi, and very loaded question. So, yeah, for the bank purpose, a 20-pager will do. But for your own safety, I will use the word safety, because you will be dealing with a consultant, you will be dealing with the EPC contractor, you will be dealing with the various vendors and all. Your DPR should be really thick and should cover the details. and it should be normally what we do. And this should become the part of your work order to the EPC. Means the DPR is the Bible where you are guided. Now, coming to start with something I will just tell you, means right from the 4 or 5 speakers have said about the specific topics. So, but while choosing the location, you got to be very careful with the 3 things. One is the feedstock, second is water, and third is market. Normally, I will prefer to have our plant located very close to the feedstock. That is there. Second is your budget. The thumb rule prices, Shashi, some participant have asked that. So thumb rule cost of a plant, we can take it somewhere around 6 to 7 crore rupees per ton of CBG production per day kind of thing. This is the thumb rule kind of thing. Depending on which technology you are using, this can change very, very dramatically, very, very dramatically. But we got to keep this thing in mind. Size of the plant depends on the 2 things, your budget and the availability of the feedstock. Market side, there is no restriction. You can have plant right from the 500 kg, producing 500 kg of CBG per day to maybe 43 tons, which the Adanis have recently commissioned. So this is the kind of range we are seeing here in India. So, but generally speaking, 5 tons, 10 tons, 15 tons, 20 tons, these are the norms of the day. While selecting the land, 2, 3 things one should be very careful, because normally I've seen people land getting rejected by some reasons and all. But 2, 3 things you should take the basic principle. One is the no overhead power line, no underground pipeline passing through your plot of land. That is the gas pipeline or the oil pipeline. Then it should be connected through a all-weather approachable road. And fourth, what Kevin said, away from the civilization. Away means how far away you can keep it, away from means so that nobody is, because it will, believe it, means all kind of conditions we have, someday or other you will have the bad smell coming from your digester or some place, and people in neighborhood will be in trouble, and then they will be after us. So these are the 3, 4 things we got to be very choosy about that. Then your land should have the change of land use, right, from the agriculture to non-agriculture. Got to be very, depending on which state we are talking about. There are some states are very easy, simple to convert. Some states they are not. So I will stop here. And one more thing, yes, about 2, 3 things. What are the government permissions are required and all. So there are 3 governments involved here. 3 departments are involved. One is your local state government, Department of Industries. So they have most of the states have this single window concept. So you register, file there for the plant and all those things. And before that, your DPR and drawing should be ready with you. Second is applying for the expression of interest of if you are applying under SATAT, or even for the CBG, CGD intermingling. So both the cases, you will be needing some DPR kind of thing, some data with you, some document with you. Third is pollution control board. So this you are supposed to apply online. Trick is this, that you apply under the white category, saying this that the fermented organic manure, both solid and liquid, will be sold, and this should be covered in your DPR. So that otherwise what they will put you in the either green or orange category. So we got to be very careful with the applying with the pollution control board to keep our plant under white category. And of course the PESO. Since if you are having the compressor, then PESO approval is also required. Now PESO requires the drawing, and that drawing they will give you 2 permissions. That is, one is the permission to construct, and then permission to operate. So PESO approvals are same, and same is the case with the pollution control board, but pollution control board, if you're applying under the white category, they are not very strict on that. But under the white category also, if you're applying for the MNRE subsidy, they require something on pollution control permission. So recently I checked up with the MNRE guys and they said, okay, if you have already applied under white category, they will not insist from the permission from the pollution control board. They will treat it that it is approved under the white category. So these are the few things I just wanted to cover. Shashi, I'm waiting for your next question.
Sir, you being the former advisor to Petroleum Minister, you have a very holistic view of the market, and that same thing happened in the petroleum refining and LPG segment when you are working. Are you seeing any drastic price drop in terms of capital happening in CBG? Like some people are trying to get into the CBG with 1 crore, 2 crore kind of investment per ton. Is that is that in the horizon, or it will take some time to come to that levels?
No, it will never come to that level. Means 1 to 2 crore per ton kind of things. Yeah, people do promise, and I see a lot of consultant claiming those kind of things, but their plants will be, I don't think they will be up to the mark. And because see, normal life of these kind of plants, we are taking around 25 years. So these plants will not survive beyond 3-4 years. If they are able to start those plants, if the chances are that these plants may not be starting. So I've seen many people quoting these kind of insane numbers, but those numbers are not good. Coming back to your price, that CBG pricing part of it, some protection was given in the CBG when we started in 2018 and all, that the minimum price should never go below 46 rupees and all. So those kind of protections have been promised for the initial 10 years or so. So, but not knowing, presently it is being linked to the CNG prices. So we have seen crude oil prices and other getting dropping it drastically, right from crude oil prices dropping from $146 per barrel to $20 per barrel. But what happens, the government has a lot of, you can say, mechanism, tax mechanism, so that the prices don't drop, or means you don't see the petrol prices going 100 rupees to 200 rupees and coming back to 100. So they remain somewhere around 100 rupees. Maybe when they were at 80, then they were remaining somewhere around 80. So these are some checks and balances are there where the government is involved. So I don't see that the CBG purchase price dropping to where the people who are investing money, they will be at loss.
Yeah, thank you, sir. CBG pricing is on the public domain. It is as a white paper published by Indian Oil. Sir, thank you for your time. Now I will want to Sanjay sir. If any clarification, definitely we will be passing on all these questions, pending question and answer through email. Sanjay Ganjoo sir has been with the industry. He started his career with the Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, that is FICCI. And he has a thickest passport because he traveled across more than 25 countries. And he represented India in many global important events. And he was also part of various large such events to conduct those events and govern those events. So now he is Director General of Indian Federation of Green Energy, and he also served as on the governing body of IIM Jammu. Now I request Sanjay ji to take over and forward, sir.
Shashi, I will not take much time, though most of the things with respect to IFGE and this forum have already been touched upon by Ramakrishna ji, Ashish ji. In fact, you also mentioned that. So I'll just give I will share a couple of slides about Indian Federation of Green Energy. Yeah, Indian Federation of Green Energy, it was set up almost 10 years ago by some passionate people who thought that India has a future in bioenergy. And this included Annasab M.K. Patil, that time Gadkari ji, Mr. Vaibhav Dhange, Pramod Chaudhary ji, and many such, luminaries who thought that bioenergy and green energy is going to be future. We work with this mission and vision that India should, increase its energy basket, and we should have energy security. And within that, we should have, different types of energies available in our energy basket so that we don't have dependence only on fossil fuel, and which is ultimately helping us to mitigate the environmental issues. This is our leadership, as I rightly mentioned. Pramod ji, Dr. Vidya Murukumbi, Atul ji from Praj, they have been instrumental under the patronage of Gadkari ji, Suresh Prabhu ji, and Annasab M.K. Patil. Within IFGE, we have different forums representing different sectors under the green energy. One, of course, is the forum under which we are organizing this conference today, and the CBG Producers Forum. Then we have Biomass Global Associates Forum. In fact, Subodh, who was just talking, he happens to be the chairperson of that. CBG Producers Forum is, led by Ramakrishna ji as chairperson, and Ashish ji as vice chairman. Similarly, we have a forum for, grain ethanol distillers. We have a forum on biodiesel. We have a forum on bamboo development. We have a forum on electric vehicles. We have a forum on solar power and wind. This is the forum which we are, having under this forum. We are having today's program. As I mentioned, Ramakrishna ji and Ashish ji, they lead this forum, and Subodh ji is the advisor for this forum. These are the past events since launch, we have organized so many events and meetings, and met the different stakeholders of the government, so that various issues which were encountering this sector were to a large extent mitigated, and certain solutions were found. These are our meetings with those dignitaries, and these are the achievements. I think most of them have already been covered by Ramakrishna ji and Ashish ji. This was possible only because the forum, took a very proactive role in talking to government, in addressing the issues, in taking up the issues with respect to the industry, so that it becomes viable for investors to get into this business. So these are some of our achievements, which you can note down, right from CBG blending mandate in CGD network, scheme for financial support, for pipeline connectivity, MDA disbursal notification for green credit programs, paddy straw supplies chain management, ICCS CBG certification, GST related issues on CBG capacity buildup, fortification of FOM. These are some of the notifications with respect to these achievements. So I'll not take much of your time. So I, in fact, will go back to Shashi ji and request him, if we have received many questions from the participants in advance. So if we can, deal with those, maybe direct them to the panelists and request them to respond. We can do it in 10-15 minutes.
Basically, what I have done throughout the session, I have bring the speakers so that they will cover those topics. One was left over to Dr. Tushar ji about the basic minimum test required on the biomass to assess its potential.
Yes, sir. For biomass or any raw material, we have to test its chemical composition and to see that how the biomethanation potential is having in that biomass. So biomass qualities are very important for projecting the capacity of the project. Its moisture level, its total volatile solids in case of its glucose, fructose, then lignin percentage in biomass, then ash, and any other ingredient which is available. That major focus is that we have to chemically analyze it very effectively and then go for the biomethanation test, whether its potential is high or no. After that process, we need to see that what is the composition of the FOM, whether it's meeting or any process optimization we require. So I'll say that before selecting the project, we have to see the raw material composition, how it is going to behave, how much it is available, what quantity and quality it is having, and then proceed with the biomass configuration. So, for example, in rice straw, we found different composition in Punjab as compared to different composition in UP and Karnataka and southern part. So this varies. We can't say thumb rule that yes, 1 ton of rice straw will give 100 kg or 120 kg of CBG. So it depends on its composition.
Yeah, people wanted to know what kind of tests are available. Means we can just name it.
Yeah, see there, NIB accredited lab, right? These labs, they are having the biomass chemical compositions. So any lab which is accredited, those compositions, they can get it on priority. Even Praj is also doing, but for any customer who is far away and unable to send the samples, so they can assess it in any chemical composition labs. So these labs are available across globe, but to get the biomethanation test potential, yes, it has to be come through that process.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Now we have one question which is on return on investment. So both me and you being on a EPC side, I don't want to be biased. So what I will do, I will ask YB Ramakrishna sir, who is the most neutral person in this forum and our chairman. I would ask him about the ROI. What kind of ROI can be expected, sir?
Well, I'm not really an expert on that subject matter, but all I can do is that your ROI will only improve not on the pay. I mean, not by what you put on the paper. It all depends on how innovatively you take care of your supply chain, and once again on the technology, like what kind of compromises you are willing to make. There was some discussion earlier about reducing the capex. But then you may have a lot of maintenance issues, and most of the time your plant may be down and trying to get the plant fixed. And then on the market side also, we are talking about, Ashish ji was talking about, giving it, supplying it to the OMCs under the Satat program and also injecting into the pipeline. Beyond that, the policy allows you to sell it directly in the market. There are other markets, innovative markets like Carbon Masters have been doing it. You can replace the CBG with LPG, and then you can also look at applications where the diesel consumption can be replaced with the use of CBG. So I think how efficiently you manage the whole business, starting in the entire value chain, and also the byproduct valorization part of it, and how do you? I mean, you have various government schemes and incentives and subsidies. I think one who is investing into it has to think beyond all that and really look at being very innovative. I would not like to put a number on that. There may be other experts who may want to do that.
Yes, sir. One question, probably since I am attached to Napier, it is directed to me. Whether the government is, would there be any obstacle if we use the Napier? I don't think so, because when we were doing our own Napier experiment and technology development process, Central Cabinet Minister visited and he spelled out why he visited. They have been spending a lot of subsidy on fertilizer as well as on the sugar industry. We are overgrowing sugar. So government is focused on making it an energy crop. So be it sugar, ethanol from sugar or Napier to this one. And they also realized there is some staple diet which is required, which is available 365 days. So we do not see that as a threat, more like a what you call adding on to whatever waste we will be, Napier will be making it economically more viable. Now, Ashish ji, have one probably last question. A lot of people curious, and even today it is an unsolved mystery about the purification technologies available, and very quickly any advantage, disadvantage at a very broad level.
Shashi, broadly speaking, we are talking about PSA. That would be one that is basically the pressure swing adsorption technology. The second would be membrane based. The third would be a combination of PSA and membrane. You can also use chemical scrubbing, amine scrubbing, or you can also use water scrubbing. So these are the different options which are available. Depending on what kind of yields, what kind of budgets and investments everybody has an appetite for, or the experience everybody has, I think the selection is going to be pretty subjective. So there is no one size which could fit all, right? So that's something which one will have to take a call on their own.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I do feel it depends on budget management and science. It is a combination of various aspects. We are done with most of the questions. Is for the manure part and carbon credit part. What I suggest, Sanjay sir, we can take it in the next session, because enrichment of the manure and finding a good market for that itself is a very in-deep project.
Details.
Yeah, as well as carbon credit and the green credit, we can call the experts.
I have a suggestion also for Sanjay ji here. I mean, these kind of questions keep cropping up again and again. It may be a good idea for us to have an FAQ session on CBG on our website, where we can probably give, a little more elaborate replies. Because, keeping in mind the time constraint, the speakers have been addressing some of these questions, but not getting into the details. But in detail, we will be able to put it up on our website under the FAQs.
Sure. You can do that, sir. Shall we propose the vote of thanks and close? Or?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think we'll.
So I think it was a very useful session. I thank the distinguished panelists, though most of them are our founding members. I must say the leading members of the CBG Producers Forum, including Ramakrishna ji, who leads this forum, Ashish ji, who is the vice chairperson of CBG Producers Forum, Dr. Tushar Patil. He happens to be the from the president of IFGE's company, Praj, a very passionate person for bioenergy. Shashi ji, Subodh ji, our mentor. Kevin, he has been with us. He has been part of CBG Forum right from the day one. So thank you, all of you, for your time. And I also thank all participants who have attended this conference, this webinar, and all my colleagues, Rohit, Nidhi, and other colleagues who have put in their efforts to bring it to this level and, make it a success. So before I close, I will request only a couple of things. One, that we should take advantage of this forum and maybe become part of this forum by joining as members. Details will be made available if you are interested. And we will be organizing such programs frequently. We are thinking of, we most probably will be organizing a carbon credit focused webinar next week. So we are in touch with some experts. So hopefully their time will be available with us for the next week. We shall let you know once we get the confirmations. And on similar topics, we shall be organizing, webinars on in future as well. So in fact, you can also suggest the topics which you feel are of interest or where you need some more information. We can definitely look into that and organize such webinars. So thank you once again for your time, and be in touch and help this CBG sector to grow. Thank you. And thank you, Shashi. I'm closing the session.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all.